530-6356 today for a free screening. Comprehensive rehab, physical, occupational, and speech therapy for all ages.
Welcome to Moving Forward, sponsored by MPW Mocklink TV and Mocklink Internet, online at mpw.org. Each weekday morning, our local talk segment brings you the people who are helping move our community forward. Let's start the show.
Good morning, AM 860 and FM 95.1 KWPC. I'm Jordan Davis. Thanks for joining us here for Moving Forward on this Tuesday, August 7th. This Moving Forward brought to you by Muscatine Power and Water. Experience the best value in entertainment and connectivity with Mocklink Internet and TV from MPNW. New subscribers save big on TV or internet and even more when you take both. Learn more at mpw.org. Again, I'm Jordan Davis, and I'm joined in the studio this morning by Hannah Howard from the Nature Conservancy. How are you this morning, Hannah?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you on, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what the Nature Conservancy is and what all that you do, and some events that you've got coming up. So can we start with first, what is the Nature Conservancy?
Yes, so the Nature Conservancy is a global nonprofit organization that works on protecting biologically important lands and waters. And we do that for people and for nature. And so my job specifically is to connect people to nature here in Muscatine County. And so we've been working in Muscatine County for over 30 years. And we're about up to 3,600 acres of nature preserves that we manage and want to get more folks out to.
And those preserves are specifically for they're kept away from any kind of development or anything like that. It's specifically there for natural habitat for animals and the wildlife that's there.
Right, and we work here in the area along the Cedar River because we found that there are a lot of really important ecosystems and habitats, as well as federally threatened and some state endangered species such as flowers, as well as turtles and other habitats. So we've been working in this area and have protected a lot of different areas, from floodplain forests to sand prairies to wetlands, a lot of just diverse habitats.
And what you're doing is, are you guys doing actual work out there in the field to keep let's say you're putting up, I don't know, do you put up fences around some of these places so that there's not, people can't, neighboring properties don't wander in or anything like that?
Right. We do have fences and some little border signs along our properties. And we have 2 full-time staff that work to manage these preserves to make sure that we're improving the habitat and returning it to a more natural state. And a lot of that is actually really active management, boots on the ground, with either equipment like chainsaws or say forestry mowers, so that they can start to take out some of the trees and shrubs that have overtaken these areas that might have naturally been prairie or wetland areas.
I see.
So try to get some of the more natural vegetation back instead of the vegetation that slowly moved and encroached in.
I can really respect that. I worked in land management for a little bit with a gentleman that he focuses on returning a lot of that to its natural state.
Really?
We removed a lot of invasive species, so we'd go in I can't think any of them now, but like autumn olive and
probably some honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle, that's the one.
Multiflora
Honeysuckle, that
rose.
stuff was awful. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. So we spent a lot of time doing that. So do you guys work specifically just with chainsaws? Do you guys use any chemicals? We used a little bit of chemical, but it was only we weren't just out spraying massive quantities. We were spraying just specific roots of invasive species so that we could keep those down without affecting the plants around it.
Right. We use a little bit of everything because we have so many acres. It just makes the most sense for us to be able to do the most good, to use a combination of tools and management strategies to be able to manage all those acres. We also even use cattle because they're a way that they can actually graze on some of those invasive species, such as reed canary grass. Because we're in the floodplain, that's one of the big problems that we have. So they're able to graze on that grass to allow other native grasses, sedges, and forbs to come back and keep those plants from seeding. But then it also helps to keep the area open and keep out some of those woody trees and shrubs that would otherwise move in if we just left that area alone. So cattle are actually some of our best management tools.
They can really make you look at a lot of the fields that you see that cattle get released into a lot. It's a whole different landscape than a normal grassy plain. So when you see a spot where cattle have been, it's all stomped down and there's lumps and there's lumps in the field. Do you get that same kind of effect from
right?
From all
a little bit, and that can be helpful in some areas and can create some little seasonal areas where water gathers for different wildlife. But we don't get that as much because we try to do more mob grazing, where we
Like a
are
controlled
constantly
release.
moving them so that they browse down the vegetation, but they're not able to really stamp down and erode the soil.
I see.
So they're really not in there long enough to do any, say, damage. But
Long-term effect.
right.
Gotcha. Like other than to get out to feed on some of those invasive species. I see. That makes a lot of sense. And so you have 2 folks on the ground at all times at all your properties in order to
In this area.
In this area, I see. So they're the ones, they go out and they check, they look through, they see what spots need the most attention at that time, and then it's those 2 that are doing that.
Right. And we actually also have a crew of interns that help us do that. They're kind of the backbone of our stewardship program because we have those 2 folks that are there year round working on projects. But this time of the year, now we have an additional 7 Iowa college students that come in and help us do some of those bigger projects that we save for the summer.
Excellent. You got to save them for the summer, those hot months. That's when it's the best. That's when it's the most fun to get out there, is when it's nice and warm and you got to really fight through all the thick brush.
But they're young and they have lots of energy and they love it, so it works out all right.
Absolutely. Plus, you get to, I imagine they get to run a little bit of some of the saws and some of the other equipment.
Yep.
That's always a fun
They
time.
get to do a little bit of everything, so they get a lot of experience in a lot of different fields, and they're actually only with us for a few weeks, and they travel the state to go to all of our other nature preserves to help with projects from all the way out in western Iowa. They actually get to work with our bison and work on some bison fencing and also some invasive species removal out in the Les Hills at our preserves there. And then they also head down to our Dunn Ranch Preserve that straddles the Iowa-Missouri border, where we have some prairie chickens and bison, and they work there as well.
Wow, I'm sure that does sound like a lot of fun. I'm kind of sad I didn't get the opportunity to do that because, gosh, working with bison, I can imagine that's a whole different playing field than working with cattle because they're a big animal.
Yeah, so it makes
they got a lot
the
of power.
fencing more difficult, and we also just have some different goals. And it's really a neat experience if you ever get the chance to head out to our Broken Kettle Preserve out there. But we also have them a little bit closer to this area. Well, not us, but our partners, Fish and Wildlife Service, have them at the Neil Smith Wildlife Refuge near Des Moines.
Near Des Moines. Okay. So all of these preserves, are some of them are used for hiking, or people can go out and they can explore them, right?
Yep, and one of the best places to do that is at our Swamp White Oak Nature Preserve, and that's on Highway G28, right near the Cedar River. And there we have over 650 acres where folks can go out and kind of get lost in nature and go hiking. And we've got a lot of really rare plants there and just a lot of biodiversity in that area. It's one of the few examples of a swamp white oak savanna. So it's a very rare ecosystem.
Swamp white oak.
Right.
What
Typically,
was it? Swamp white oak savanna?
Savanna. Yeah. Typically, you would find savannas in the uplands because it's large, typically oak trees that are spread out, and you have prairie plants and wildflowers underneath. However, in this system, we've got swamp white oaks, which are our main canopy tree, spread out in the floodplain. So you have kind of a mix of dry sand prairies where we have rare plants such as the prickly pear cactus and, say, wild clematis and other dry sandy prairie species. But then you also have a mix of ephemeral and permanent wetlands in that. So it's kind of an interesting savanna.
It is. That does sound interesting. That's kind of a weird mix. Floodplains and sand.
Right.
Or sandy and cactuses.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to hear you say that. Prickly pear cactus. And
Yes.
where would you find those mostly? What area here?
Well, we actually do, because of this area, we actually have a few unique sand prairies that also include some owned by the DNR and also the Big Sand Mound Preserve, which is a very unique large sand prairie owned by Mid-American and Monsanto.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into some of the events that you guys have coming up. I know that you do have a couple, and there was one you wanted to touch on, that there is a partnership with Muscatine, the Iowa State Extension Office here in Muscatine.
Yes, and it turns out Krista, Reginator with Extension, is actually going to be here tomorrow to talk about that. So I'll just give a little sneak peek. But it's the Iowa Master Conservationist Program. And so that's a really excellent program. It's very similar to the Master Gardener program where you get online curriculum, but every week we have a field trip where we get together and meet and actually get to see some of these natural areas and meet experts in the field, say from the DNR. We'll have folks from the Nature Conservancy, Fish and Wildlife. There'll be all kinds of folks that will be joining our class to just teach folks about the different natural ecosystems and how to be better stewards of the land.
Mm-hmm. Because that's important, because if we don't keep a lot of these places safe and clean and well kept, then they could be gone and we could lose some of those species, right?
Yes, and most of Iowa is actually privately owned, and so a lot of it isn't up to conservation organizations. Mm-hmm. It's up to the people of Iowa to really care for our land and preserve it for future generations.
So you guys offer this as an opportunity for folks to learn how to preserve their land.
Yes, or just folks that want to learn more about our natural ecosystems. And so it's really a great class. We meet 6 to 9 p.m. on Thursdays. Registration's still open, and we'll be rotating each class to a different location, from Wildcat Den State Park to study geology, to our Swamp White Oak Nature Preserve to learn about wetland ecosystems. Since it's right on the Cedar River, we've got wetlands and backwaters of Pike Creek. So to even going to Chinkapin Bluffs in Louisa County to learn more about forest ecosystems. So there's just a whole suite of different experts that'll be joining us, and really neat, high-quality natural areas that we'll be going to through this class.
I see. That's really interesting. And I just want to take just a quick moment before we continue. Remind everybody that this is brought to you in part by Comprehensive Rehab. Comprehensive Rehab, take your family there when they're in need of that special treatment that only Comprehensive Rehab can provide. So once again, joining us here in the studio from the Nature Conservancy is Hannah Howard. Hannah, we really appreciate you coming in. So let's talk more about some events that you got coming up. I've got a flyer in front of me here, actually, the Beginner's Guide to Dragonflies and Damselflies. Only one of those I recognize, dragonflies. You know, I can point those out, but I honestly don't know what a damselfly
Yes,
looks
they're
like.
very similar. However, damselflies just tend to be a little bit slimmer, but you'll find them kind of in the same ecosystems, hanging out around water and wetlands, but you can also see them out in prairies and other areas. And so this is just a very casual, fun event for people of all ages, just to go out on a hike with us at our nature preserves and learn more about something. And this time it's specifically dragonflies and damselflies.
Interesting. And now I'm used to seeing these because I lived on a pond. We lived right above one. So we were out on a boat, or we were just down there fishing all the time. You see so many different types of dragonflies, so many different colors and sizes and all that. Like you see those ones with the real thick bodies are like that. But
Yeah,
you see these ones that are like pencil thin almost, or pencil lead thin.
Right, and they really have such beautiful variation and a lot of jewel tones, especially some of these damselflies can range from really bright emerald green to a bright blue to, there's even some that are more subdued browns, oranges, reds. So they really are just a wide variety of colors. And once you start to learn some of the species,
is each one with a different color? Is that necessarily a different species?
No, well, there's just so many different species. I mean, there can be some species that look very similar. Like there's all kinds of those bright, brilliant blue ones, and there's also a lot of green ones. So it just, and actually, I'm not the expert that's going to be leading this hike. This will actually be Elizabeth Owen. She's one of our stewardship staff. Okay. And this is one of her hobbies. She really is excellent at IDing these, and just a passion of hers.
Really cool. So when is that? I guess I can say
it's actually tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Tomorrow night,
Yeah.
the Maytag Nature Preserve from 5 to 7 p.m. The event is free. Wow, that's really cool to be able to get out there for nothing. be able to
Yeah.
to be able to go out and enjoy a nice hike through. I haven't been to Maytag Preserve. Where is that?
Yes, it's actually outside of Conesville.
Okay.
And it's on 245th Street. And so folks can visit our Facebook page, the Nature Conservancy in Iowa. We've got an event page for this event, or they can visit our website, nature.org/Iowa, to get more specific directions to this preserve.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, also the Cedar River Ramble that's going to be coming up. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so this is a really fun partnership between the Muscatine Soil and Water Conservation District and Louisa County Conservation. We'll be spending an afternoon and a day of getting out on the Cedar River, paddling. We'll paddle about a 13-mile stretch, or a little bit less than that, from 10 to 4 p.m. Saturday, September 29th. And we'll have some stops at some sandbars along the way. We invite folks to bring their lunch, and we'll have folks from the Nature Conservancy, Soil and Water Conservation District, and Louisa County Conservation have some educational materials ready for you and presentations, and we'll do some water sampling to check out the water quality of the Cedar River and learn more about the wildlife and nature that's specifically found along the Cedar River as well.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Now, it says here participants may bring their own kayak or canoe. Do you guys
Yeah,
have
so
some
we'll
to
be
rent?
providing some, and that's why we have a cost of $5 per person, but we still wanted to keep it cheap and easy for folks to get involved so that cost isn't a factor of folks participating. But then there's some folks that also like to use their own kayak or canoe, and so we'll also have a shuttle that can take those to the put-in spot so that folks can use their own, or they can rent from us for the day.
That's really cool. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually, floating on. There's nothing better than floating on the river for an afternoon. Or,
Yes.
What time do you guys say you start? 10 a.m.
10.
So bright and early, and then going on in the evening.
Right, and really getting out and floating on the river is the best way to really learn more about the ecosystem, and it's one of my favorite hobbies because not only do you kind of get to relax and take in a lot of scenery through a stretch of river, but then you also get to see all the birds that fly over the river, from the belted kingfishers to the great blue herons and usually bald eagles as well. So there's lots of nature to experience and kind of to get lost and relax.
I'm
out
a
on the river.
waterfowler, so I love getting to go out and see all the ducks and all the
yeah.
all those. Oh gosh, I love seeing those.
What's your favorite duck?
My first ever duck I took was a wood duck drake.
Those are
Beautiful
my
birds.
favorite ducks.
Beautiful
Yes.
birds. I absolutely love them. He was the first one that I ever took, and I haven't been hunting in almost a couple of years now. But there's no better experience than even just going out and watching them. It's not really about going out and hunting. It's more about just getting out there and watching their patterns that they do. Because if you go out there early enough in the morning, you can watch ducks fly in a big circle over like any kind of preserve or anything like that for hours. It's awesome. Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I love
it. So the Cedar River Ramble, that's an event that's going to be coming up Saturday, September 29th. So plenty of time to put that in your plans, folks. And you can be checking out more that they do. The Nature Conservancy. Is it the Nature Conservancy on Facebook?
Yep, the Nature Conservancy
that's how
in
best to find
Iowa.
it. Okay. All right. Well, anything else you'd like to add here as we're kind of wrapping up?
Yes, there actually is one other event we've got coming up, and that's called the Women, Land, and Legacy Listening Session. So that's on Monday, September 10th, and it's an opportunity for women landowners and women in agriculture, whether they be landowners or farmers or just have family ties, perhaps in agriculture, that would like to get connected to other women. And so we're having a listening session at the Durant Community Center Monday, September 10th. We'll have an afternoon session from 2 to 4 p.m. and then one from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And so that's an opportunity for women to meet other women, to share about their experiences in agriculture, and then moving forward, after we hear more from these women, we'll be planning series of events throughout the year that will be providing educational opportunities or just more networking and social opportunities for these women, whether they be farm tours or just get-togethers. And so we partnered with the Muscatine Soil and Water Conservation District and the NRCS offices in Muscatine, Cedar, and Scott counties to create a large group of women, so it can be women from any of these counties to join together.
I think I actually just recently heard, too, on one of our ag shows that women own a large percentage of agricultural land here in women
They
are
do.
the large percentage of owners in Iowa, if I understood that correctly. So I'm sure that's going to be a very well received program.
Yes, and actually as things begin to change and dynamics change, women are actually projected to own even more of the percentage of private land than now. So this is an opportunity for women to learn more about, maybe what that entails if they weren't specifically always the owners of their family's farm. And it also, a lot of Women, Land, and Legacy chapters in other parts of the state, one of their popular events is having an event where women get to learn about how to talk to their tenants if they have farmers that lease their ground.
I see.
So that they can incorporate more conservation practices, or maybe so that they can have the difficult conversation of maybe they really should be charging more for their tenants to farm that ground, or perhaps they want to terminate the contract and go with another farmer. Those are difficult conversations to have.
That's not easy.
And so it's kind of a nice way for women to learn more about how to have those conversations and to not back away from those.
I see. Well, that sounds really important. Sounds like it'll be a great program, especially for folks, especially since, like you said, they're projected to own even more of the farmland and some of that private land in the future than they even do now. So that's really interesting and very important, and we're really glad that you came in and shared with us today, Hannah.
Well, thanks for having us.
It was a real pleasure. Once again, from the Nature Conservancy, Hannah Howard joining us here in studio for Moving Forward. Thanks again, Hannah, and we look forward. Hopefully, we'll be hearing from you a whole bunch in the future.
Oh, yes, because we have a big event, Swamp Stomp, Sunday, October 7th. It's our second annual music, games, guided hiking tours out at our nature preserve. So that is a big one coming up. So you'll hear more from us about that.
And in October, hopefully we're going to see some of that cooler weather to come with that. Because I just last week I was talking about how nice it was to have 70-degree weather, and then the next day it was 90. Gosh. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks so much for coming in. Can't wait to have you next time.
Thanks.
Once again, Hannah Howard joining us from the Nature Conservancy here on Moving Forward. Once again, brought to you by Muscatine Power and Water. MockLink Internet and TV are the best value in entertainment and connectivity, and getting better with world-class fiber. Subscribe now and you'll get fiber when it comes to your neighborhood. Learn more at mpw.org. I'm Jordan Davis here on the voiceofmuscatine.com.